After a disastrous 2005 season, the Saints would let go of head coach Jim Haslett and hire former Cowboys assistant coach and quarterbacks coach Sean Payton. Quarterback Aaron Brooks was released by the Saints in the 2006 offseason, meaning that the team had to go out and find a new signal caller. And the quarterback that they would get would change everything for the New Orleans Saints. Yep, the Saints will go out and sign former Chargers quarterback Drew Brees to a 5-year contract that made him the new quarterback for the New Orleans Saints, not just for the 2006 season, but for many years to come. The Saints will also go out and draft running back Reggie Bush out of USC, whose agent initially opposed the Saints drafting him, but Sean Payton would say, "Forget you, I'm drafting Reggie Bush." This draft class will also produce playmakers like safety Roman Harper, guard Jari Evans, tackle Zach Strief, and wide receiver Marcus Colston. The Saints will start the 2006 season off with a 2-0 record with victories over the Browns and the Packers. And in week 3 of the 2006 season, the Saints will make their return to the Superdome, taking on the Atlanta Falcons in a Monday Night Football game. This gives us the opportunity to spotlight another player who will make a lasting impact for the New Orleans Saints. Steve Gleason had been with the Saints ever since the 2000 season, and he had mainly made his impact on the special teams side of the ball. But on this night, he will be remembered as a New Orleans Saints legend. After forcing the 3-and-out, the Saints would force the Falcons to punt the ball, and then, well, take a look.
Anderson is here for most field goals. Look out! Right through! A pick block by Steve Gleason. It is scooped and scored by Curtis DeLoach. Touchdown, New Orleans!
This block punt would be more than just a block punt, as it would signify a rebirth not only for the Saints, but for the whole city of New Orleans. It was so legendary that in 2012, the Saints would reveal a statue of the block punt in its remembrance. The Saints would finish the 2006 season with a 10-6 record, which would not only be first in the NFC South, but would secure a first-round bye in the playoffs. The Saints would end up winning a hard-fought battle against the Philadelphia Eagles in the division round of the playoffs with a 27-24 victory. But they would miss out on the Super Bowl this year, losing to the Chicago Bears 39-14. Drew Brees would make an impact not only on the field but off the field, winning the Man of the Year award, while Coach Payton would go on to win Coach of the Year and Mickey Loomis would go on to win GM of the Year. Now, the Saints would regress in the 2007-2008 season, going 7-9 in 2007 and 8-8 in 2008. In the 2008 offseason, however, the team would acquire middle linebacker Jonathan Vilma from the New York Jets in exchange for a 4th-round draft pick in the 2008 draft. Along with that, in the 2009 offseason, the team would re-sign Jonathan Vilma to a 5-year contract to keep him in the black and gold. Then, in the 2009 offseason, the Saints would promote Pete Carmichael to be the new offensive coordinator and hire Greg Williams to be the new defensive coordinator. Now, the Saints would release longtime running back Deuce McAllister in the 2009 offseason, but he would come back with the team as an honorary captain. The team will also go out and sign cornerback Jabari Greer and draft Michael Jenkins out of Ohio State. The Saints would start the 2009 season off hot with a strong 13-0 record, but they would come back down to earth, losing 3 straight games to end the season, but they still finished with a 13-3 record, finishing first in the NFC South and securing the first-round bye in the playoffs. The Saints wouldn't show any rust as they demolished the Cardinals 45-14 in the divisional round. And in the conference championship game, they would go into overtime against the Minnesota Vikings, which would set up our next player profile. Garrett Hartley had been kicking for the Saints since the 2008 season, and he would find himself in a very familiar spot. He had missed the game-winning kick against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a few weeks prior. But in the conference championship game in overtime, with the game on the line, Garrett Hartley will go out and do this.
Sends the Saints to the Super Bowl.
Garrett Hartley redeemed himself with the biggest moment of his career, not only beating the Vikings 31-28, but sending the Saints to their first Super Bowl in team history. The Saints will find themselves in a pretty competitive battle against the Colts, with the Colts up 10-6 over the Saints at halftime. Coming out of the locker room, the Saints will have one of the gutsiest calls in Super Bowl history, going with an onside kick to kick things off in the second half. After the onside kick, Drew Brees will connect with running back Pierre Thomas that will put the Saints up 13-10. But the Colts will respond on their next drive, with Joseph Addai rushing in for a touchdown that will put the Colts up 17-13. On the Saints' next drive, Garrett Hartley would connect on the 47-yard field goal that would cut the deficit to 1 point. Then in the fourth quarter, Drew Brees would connect with tight end Jeremy Shockey. Then he would connect with wide receiver Lance Moore that would put the Saints up 24-17. There was still time left to go in the game, but this gives us an opportunity to spotlight our final player for the New Orleans Saints. Cornerback Tracy Porter was a second-round pick for the New Orleans Saints in the 2008 draft. A couple weeks prior, he had made the clutch interception that sent the Saints-Vikings game into overtime and set up the game-winning kick for Garrett Hartley. He decided to make another highlight play, this time coming in the Super Bowl. So now we're back to where it all started. Fourth quarter, with 3 minutes and 24 seconds left to go, it's 3rd and 5, and the Colts were driving down the field. But this play will be one of the greatest plays in Super Bowl history and one of the greatest plays in New Orleans Saints history as well.
Picked off. Look out. Gets past Manning, and it's Tracy Porter taking it all the way. Touchdown, New Orleans.
And just like that, Tracy Porter had sealed the game for the New Orleans Saints as they were going to beat the Colts 31-17. The fans back in New Orleans were celebrating on Bourbon Street as they finally saw their team reach the promised land. Drew Brees would go on to be named Super Bowl MVP, and just like that, the Saints were finally world champions. Not gonna lie, I really enjoyed doing this. From going through and covering my favorite team's history all the way from 67 up into the 2009 season. It was a lot of time and effort, but at the end of the day, I enjoyed doing this. Now, I know I said in the first episode that this is going to be a 10-episode series, but I decided to just cut it to here. One, because I didn't want the 2010s to overshadow what the Saints had done in the 2009 season, with the ups and downs that came in the 2010s and the 2020s. Plus, doing this series, it was mentally draining. Getting all the information and putting the videos together, it was a lot. So I just decided to just cut it here and to just focused on the Saints going from bottom dwellers all the way to win the championship in the 2009 season. But I will give a quick overview of the 2010s and 2020s real quick. So in 2010, the Saints made it back to the playoffs, but they lost to a Seattle Seahawks team who was 7-9 and somehow got into the playoffs because of being in the bad division. That was when Marshawn Lynch had that Beastquake run, and just like that, the Saints were out of the playoffs. Then in 2011, the 49ers went down the field and had that game-winning drive on the Saints. Then 2012 was when the Bounty Gate scandal came. So Sean Payton got suspended. Greg Williams, who was no longer the Saints defensive coordinator at the time, he got suspended. And the Saints went 7-9 that year. But they bounced back in 2013, win the playoffs, but they made it back to the playoffs, losing to the Seattle Seahawks. And I'm going to be honest, nobody was beating that Seahawks team. We had a chance, but we couldn't get it done. Then 2014 through 2016 was that little rough stretch for the Saints as they had 3 straight 7-9 seasons. But they would make it back to the playoffs in the 2017 season. But that was when the Minneapolis Miracle happened and the Saints season was over against the Vikings. It's always Minnesota. It's always Minnesota. But that was the 2017 season. Then 2018, that one hurt. The 2018 season hurt because that team had the parts to make it all the way. But it was those officials not throwing the flag, and it still hurts. It still kind of hurts to this day. That one hurt more than the Minneapolis Miracle. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna lie to you guys. But after that, the Saints in 2019 had another good season, but got bounced out by the Vikings in the wild card round. Then 2020 made it back to the playoffs, but ultimately lost to the Super Bowl champs in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Then 2021, that was when Drew Brees had retired, and the Saints went through a carousel of quarterbacks from Jameis Winston. He was the starting quarterback for like the first 8 games. Then he got hurt, and then it was Trevor Siemian, Ian Book, and Taysom Hill at the starting quarterback spot. Then 2022 comes along, Sean Payton retires, and Dennis Allen's now the main guy at the head coaching spot. Jameis Winston was the starting guy to start the season, but then injuries kind of caught up to him, and then the Saints just stuck with Andy Dalton for the rest of the year. And then last season, before I get to what happened last season, the Saints went 7-10 in the 2022 season, and then last year they went 9-8 and missed the playoffs both years. But I am optimistic about this year. I don't know if it's delusion or just me just being confident in what the team has at their disposal. New offensive coordinator, Derek Carr in his second year with the team. I think he'll be much better. The offensive line is still a question mark, but I'm still kind of confident in them. And the defense still going to do what they do best. So, yeah, that's a quick overview of the Saints in the 2010 2020s. And I just want to thank you guys for just watching this series and tuning in. And I'm going to take a break from the football content after this. And then I got 2 NBA videos planned for you guys. And then we'll go from there. But appreciate you guys for tuning in and watching. And as always, KGF, keep God first.